A terror attack in Kenya, U.S. troops killed in Syria, and the closest thing you can get to hell on earth, in my opinion. That's all coming up on today's episode of The Hot Zone.
This is The Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, I'm Chuck Holton, and I'm driving south to Florida. Had to go to the States to pick up my body armor and stuff for my trip to Syria next week, and so I'm driving back. So let's get on with the podcast. They call it the Kumbh Mela. It's a Hindu pilgrimage that happens every year in India, or every few years. And this year they're saying it's going to be the largest gathering of human beings in one place ever. 120 million people, and it's hard to even grasp a crowd that size. It's equal to the entire population of Japan. And all those happy Hindus are going to be descending on a place that I can't pronounce. And anyway, it's a city in the north of India where 3 sacred rivers converge, and all these people are coming to bathe in those rivers to wash away their sins. So let's hope that nobody downstream is planning on washing anything else or drinking from that waterway anytime soon. Blech. Anyway, I thought a trip to Disney was about as close to hell as I ever wanted to get. The older I get, the less I like big crowds of people. But 120 million people all in one place, that just makes me like break out in hives right there. Anyway, on a more serious note, another horrible terror attack happened in Kenya on Tuesday when Al-Shabaab gunmen charged the upscale hotel called the Dusit in Nairobi's Westgate district. They detonated bombs in the lobby and then started taking hostages and had a big standoff with Kenyan police and military for several hours. So far, 15 people are dead and a whole lot more wounded. The Kenyan president made a statement on Wednesday afternoon that the hotel had been retaken and cleared, and the cleanup has begun. Al-Shabaab is the terror group responsible. They're from Somalia, and they've also been responsible for a whole lot more horrific terror attacks in Kenya and elsewhere over the past several years. In 2013, they took over a shopping mall very near where this attack happened, eventually killed more than 60 people. They also attacked the Garissa College in Kenya back in 2015 in April and murdered 147 students. Now, these monsters are some of the most cowardly air thieves known to man, and the scale of their brutality really knows no bounds. There are hundreds of thousands of Somalis living in Kenya, and mostly in refugee camps and slums up in the country's north. And then they left their own country because of the violence that was there, but that violence has followed many of them to Kenya. They've been the subject of incredible hardship and violence in Kenya, and Islamic extremists have been infiltrating the refugee camps and using them as recruiting grounds for disaffected youth in that area. The situation got so bad that in 2016, the Kenyan government decided to close the world's largest refugee camp called Dadaab. 330,000 Somali refugees live there, and Kenya decided to send them all back home. But that didn't go over very well with the international aid community and human rights groups, who said it was dangerous and maybe even illegal for them to do that. But after the massacre at Garissa, the Kenyan government said it was a national security issue and they had to close the camp. Bottom line is, Somalia is literally one of the worst places on the planet. I've been there several times, and it's hard to even describe how bad it is there, the living conditions and that sort of thing. The people there really don't know anything different, however, and so coming from such a brutal and lawless place, it's hard for them to assimilate into civilized, especially Western cultures. Now, thousands of Somalis have moved to Minnesota and left their country behind, and they've all settled in like the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and they're starting to have a really major effect on the culture and the politics of that area. A few years ago, our Frontlines team from NRA did an investigation there about Somali young men who were leaving Minnesota and going back to Somalia to fight for ISIS, and then coming back to the United States. Check it out.
If If you guys only knew how much fun we have over here. This is the real Disneyland. You need to come here and join us. And take pleasure in this fun. We walk amongst the lions. We sleep under the moon and the stars. And if you guys need to come here, this is the place to be. We miss you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make easy for you to come here, to join us in this cause, and to crush the kuffar, to free yourself from all your desires and all the evil fitna.
Minnesota has the largest number of Somalis in the United States. Because of our large numbers here, we have to constantly be concerned about kids being radicalized.
They're here, they live here. The radicals are part of the community because of our isolation and our poverty and our fear of government that allowed them to operate freely.
As soon as they give up the suicide cult concept and they decide just to walk into a building with AK-47s, we're in a world of trouble, and we're there now. The Westgate Mall attack in Nairobi is the biggest wake-up call for law enforcement here in America.
Okay, now let's move over to Syria. On Wednesday, a bomb went off near a U.S. patrol that was in the city of Manbij and killed at least 14 people, including some Americans. We're not sure exactly how many at the moment. The Islamic State claimed the attack and said that the terrorist, it had a terrorist with an explosive vest that struck the patrol as they neared a local market in that city, which has really been home to most of the U.S. troops in Syria for the last several years. Now, I get asked from time to time the question of how could a Christian be a soldier and possibly have to kill people? And my answer has always incorporated a situation like what we just saw here in Syria. If I'm a soldier standing guard over a marketplace and I see a suicide bomber coming, running to attack the market with an explosive vest on, and I've got only seconds to make a decision, and as a Christian, that decision needs to reflect the love of Christ as much as possible. So what is the most loving thing I can do at that moment? Well, obviously the most loving thing I can do for the people in the market is to shoot that terrorist in the face. But I would submit that it's also the most loving thing I can do to stop the terrorist by killing him, because I'm helping him avoid committing a horrific sin for which he would have to answer to the Most High God at some point. I mean, indeed, if you were to ask me right now as I sit here in my right mind what I would want you to do if someday for some reason I lose my mind and take over a daycare center or something like that and threaten to kill the children that are in it, I would tell you right now, thinking clearly, that I would hope you would do whatever it took to stop me, even if it meant killing me to save those precious little children. So sometimes violence is the answer, and it's the most loving answer. It's not clear whether this attack in Syria happened because of the pullout that was announced by President Trump a couple weeks ago, where he suddenly said, we're going to take all U.S. troops out of Syria. But the situation on the ground probably isn't that nuanced. I mean, what I'm trying to say is the enemies we have there are going to look for whatever opportunity they have to kill us, and the greater politics of whatever's going on in Washington probably don't affect those feelings all that much. The bottom line is that since we put troops in Syria in 2014, we've only lost 2 soldiers up to the point where this attack took place. So Wednesday's attack may have doubled or tripled even the total cost in U.S. troops that we've suffered. And that may be one of the reasons why Donald Trump decided to take the troops out of that place, because the political capital that gets burned every time we lose a U.S. soldier in that area or in any area is just too high right now. And I have heard some rumblings that the U.S. may try to keep a presence in the area by hiring private military contractors to do the job that U.S. troops were doing. And that's one thing that I'm going to try to investigate on my trip to Syria next week. So I'll let you know. But to say the situation over there is bad would be a major understatement. I mean, Fox News reported on Wednesday that at least 15 children have died over the last month due to the very cold weather and poor medical care. And that's another thing, another reason I want to go over there is because I want to bring you the stories of the children who are suffering because of this war. And as I always say on this podcast, I want to give you an opportunity to reach into those kids' lives and help them directly, and then see how much good a little bit of money can do for people that are having their worst day. So I don't know if I'm going to have very good internet access while I'm on the ground over there, but you can bet I'm going to be filming everything that happens, and I'm going to bring it to you, those stories that mean the most important stories. I'm going to bring them to you as soon as I get enough bandwidth to send them. And if you'd like to be involved in helping me help those people, there's still time to send whatever money you want to PayPal or by going to patreon.com/hotzone and subscribing to this podcast. My goal is to take the money that you send and help people directly when I'm in places like Syria, and then get their stories right back to you. So I hope you'll join us. And I look forward to partnering with you and to help as many people as we can over the next several weeks while I'm over there. So thanks for watching. That's all we've got for today on today's Hot Zone. You're going to see probably more strange situations like this where I'm not in the studio in front of a nice big 80-inch LED screen and with all the lights and cameras and teleprompters and everything like that, because I'm going to be on the road a lot, and my goal is to keep bringing you this podcast however I can and try to do the best job I can with what I've got. So I'm sorry for the bad audio quality, and I hope you'll keep watching, because we're going to have some pretty cool stuff to show you before too long. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being with us on The Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.